Exactly 1 year ago, this day, it was India's most direct and the fiercest message to Pakistan in recent years. Don't mess with India. The surgical strikes on terrorist training camps and launch pads in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir on the night of September 28th and 29th, 2016. Indeed, that was the turning point in India's military strategy and response to Pakistan-sponsored terror. But has this deterred Pakistan? Has Pakistan learnt the lesson, or does it need perhaps another dose?
On September 29, 2016, India stunned Pakistan and the world with a secret surgical strike across the LOC. A most daring cross-border operation that punished Pakistan like never before. An operation that quaked the region, destroyed Pakistani terror camps, and announced a ferocious new India. But just days before the surgical strike anniversary, Pakistani terrorists struck at Uri again. 4 of them eliminated. The Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists were attempting to carry out a major strike against the forces like the 2016 Uri massacre. It's clear that a wounded, frustrated and angry Pakistan has been baying for revenge. But the big question is, a year after India's most daring operation, has Pakistan learnt its lesson? Over 178 terrorists have been killed by the Indian Army in the year after the surgical strikes. Ceasefire violations have come down post-surgical strikes. While there were 228 Pakistan violations along the LOC in 2016, till February 2017, there were only 22. Civilian casualties and injuries too have been zero in 2017. While last year, there were 13 civilian casualties along the international border and the LOC. But did surgical strikes achieve its strategic aim? The Indian Army has lost 69 soldiers in Kashmir after the surgical strikes. Pakistan too continues to push terrorists across the LOC to stoke violence in the valley. The opposition claims that the Modi government used surgical strikes to deflect attention from important issues.
This government, whenever they face a bad day, they have to do a surgical strike somewhere.
One thing is for sure, India's surgical strike has marked a paradigm shift in military strategy and sent the clearmost message to Pakistan: don't mess with India. Bureau Report, India Today.
As Pakistani terrorists hit the Uri brigade, the government was clear in its mind. Enough is enough. Pakistan-sponsored terror had to be punished. Pakistan had to be taught a lesson. But when did preparations begin for the surgical strike? Critics have said surgical strikes had even been carried out earlier, and that the Narendra Modi government was only trying to take political advantage of a military operation. So for the first time since the surgical strikes, General Dalbir Singh, then army chief, speaks his mind. He's elaborating on differences between earlier raids and the first government-mandated surgical strikes into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. My colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen with this India First exclusive.
Last year, at about this time, our special forces were coming back from Pakistan. They'd gone deep inside, struck terror camps, destroyed terror camps, and they were on their way back and had reached. We have with us today the then Chief of Army Staff, General Dalbir Singh, a man who's never ever spoken out on what happened exactly and what was going on through his mind. Sir, thank you very, very much for speaking to us. Let me begin by asking you, sir, you've not only done the Uri strikes, you've done the Myanmar strikes also. So 2 surgical strikes during your tenure, but you never ever spoke about it. Why? I mean, even as chief, you never spoke.
You are right, because I always strongly believed that actions must speak louder than words. And that is what Indian Army did during my tenure as the chief.
And actions did indeed speak very, very loudly. I mean, this time last year, it was all around the world. I mean, it is not only in India.
That's right.
Sir, let me start with the Myanmar operations. I remember just after our soldiers had been killed in Myanmar, you rushed to Myanmar, and then happened the strikes. How difficult was the Myanmar strike? One. And two, what did you take away from the Myanmar strike that you used in the cross-border strikes into Pakistan?
All operations, big or small, we have to make sure that proper preparation is made. No operation should be taken as an easy operation, and especially if an operation is across the border or line of control. The degree of difficulty increases that much. So definitely the operation was not easy, it was difficult. As far as takeaway is concerned, after the success of Myanmar operation, especially without any casualties, we succeeded. I was very clear in my mind that any major incident thereafter in the country, the government and the people of the country, the nation, would expect us to deliver in the similar manner, if not better.
So, sir, when did you start preparing, so to say, for the strikes inside Pakistan?
You see, immediately after the operations in Myanmar, and this thought came to my mind, I had directed my military operations branch to start preparing for the next set, because that could happen any day. No one can rule it will be tomorrow after 1 year or after 1 year. Therefore, I immediately put them on the job. In my first visit thereafter to headquarters Northern Commands, I asked the army commander to start preparing, and actually the ball got rolling from then onwards with regard to training, equipping and other preparation required. Details of the preparation beyond this I will not discuss.
Agreed, sir. But, just after the Uri brigade was hit by the terrorists, soldiers died, you rushed that very day. When you went there, what is it that was going through your mind?
On
visiting Uri?
On visiting Uri, the first thought that came to my mind was that we have to avenge this incident, and we cannot let the sacrifice of our brave soldiers go waste. This was the first thing that came to my mind, and also that we'll have to now start planning and thinking on striking in the manner that we did in Myanmar.
So immediately that thought had crossed your mind?
Absolutely.
Sir, recently my former editor and my colleague Nitin Gokhale has written in his book that you briefed the Prime Minister in the operations room. Can you tell us what happened?
Definitely. Honorable Prime Minister was briefed in the operation room. We had presented few military options. We had also recommended a particular option. After due deliberations, diligence and weighing all pros and cons, Honorable Prime Minister approved the option that we had recommended, and that option was executed successfully without any casualties. It was a very bold decision on part of the Honorable Prime Minister, and we are grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister for reposing faith and confidence in the armed forces, and I'm glad we lived up to the expectations of the nation.
So on the day of the operation or the day before the operation, were you worried?
I would say that we have been trained to execute operations throughout our service, and in 42.5 years of service, you served at various places, conducted very kind of operations. I would say it was not worry, it was concern, and my concerns were basically two. One, that the operations have to succeed when we launch. Therefore, the planning, preparation and execution has to be perfect nothing sought. And second, that we have to ensure that there are no casualties. And in case there is a casualty, at all costs, the casualty has to be brought back, not left behind. These were the two major concerns.
And when they came back, was there a sense of relief?
Yes, I think not only in me, in the entire country.
Sir, let me take you a little, ask you slightly differently, a different question rather. After the operations happened, many people then came out and said that, well, these kind of operations keep happening. How do you respond to this?
The two cannot be compared, honestly, because what we have been doing earlier are, you can call it local action, operation, strike, whatever, but they are single point action. They were actions along the border, not across the line of control in depth. They were also at unit and formation level and did not have any political approval. But the surgical strikes that we carried out on night 28 to 9 September 2016 were across the line of control, few kilometers inside. They were not at one point, but they were at number of points. The strikes were at number of places. They are also on a wide front of more than 200 kilometers.
Leads to a very obvious question, sir. Can we do this again?
Definitely. We've done it. Our forces have the capability, they are motivated and have now the confidence of doing it. And we will do it again, and if required, again and again.
And sir, if I were to ask you, having led the Indian Army, being the chief of the Indian Army, what did, say, the strikes achieve, or what was the impact, so to say? What would you, in your analysis, will be that?
You see, there were 2-3 aims, you can say, of the strikes. First was, I said, we have to avenge, which means we had to cause casualties more than what we suffered of our boys. Secondly, to create a sense of insecurity in the minds on the other side. And thirdly, also ensure that they do not feel safe or they feel unsafe on their own soil. As far as impact is concerned, the basic impact of these things is deterrence. And I think we have achieved that, because neither in the east nor along the western borders we have had any major incident after the surgical strikes.
After 42 years of service, having been all over, done so much, you've never taken credit for any of this. For these strikes, who do you give the credit to?
Firstly, I give credit for the strikes to the Honorable Prime Minister for taking a very bold decision. And then I give it to my subordinates, my able commanders, and my brave soldiers who executed the operations, the surgical strikes. I think they are the one who deserve credit for the success. I would also like to mention that as Chief of the Army Staff, whenever I visited my troops, and especially those who are operational areas, I always told them not to have the fear of failure. And I told them that as Chief of the Army Staff, it is my responsibility for the failures, is my responsibility, but the credit for success will go to you because you deserve.
Thank you so much, General, for speaking to us. Thank you so much.
Very clear signal there from General Dalbir Singh Suhag, then Chief of the Army Staff. There was a message that had to be sent to Pakistan. Pakistan terror had to be punished. More casualties than Pakistan had caused on the Indian side. We lost 18 braves. By some accounts, Pakistan has lost more than 80. But there is a bigger signal that India was sending out. India can do it again and again and again should the need arise. Pakistan, this uncertainty has now been introduced in Pakistan. They can't target India and think they can get away with it just because they're a nuclear weapons state. But Pakistan needs to beware. It's not just India. Even Afghanistan is openly exposing Pakistan-sponsored terror, cautioning Pakistan to desist from cross-border terrorism that is harming the progress of this entire region. Earlier this morning, I caught up with Dr. Abdullah, Afghanistan's chief executive, on the issue of India-Afghanistan relations and on Pakistan-sponsored terror. Let's listen in. So the US President said, and I quote, Washington can no longer be silent about safe havens of terror in Pakistan. Now he's named Pakistan. In your appreciation, how correct is he? And what is the proof that these terrorist organizations have safe havens in Pakistan?
You will not be making me a judge for making judgments about state leaders' statements, but at the same time, the issue of sanctuaries has been something that we have raised it with our neighboring country, Pakistan, and we want a solution for it. We want an end for it. And we have to address it. And this is one of our main concerns.
But Pakistan denies it. They deny that there are safe sanctuaries there. So what's the way forward? Are surgical strikes at these safe sanctuaries to keep Afghans safe an option, whether for Americans or for Afghans or together?
There are two issues that I need to address. One is the US policy on South Asia, which is more comprehensive and also very clear about the issues, about the challenges, which has been widely welcomed in Afghanistan. That's one. Next to that, we will continue to engage and interact with Pakistan on the issues related to the Taliban in their presence there. And at the same time, other countries will also engage through their own ways and through their own means. But one thing that we can assure all our neighboring countries, that Afghanistan is not a threat to any country. It will not pose a threat to any country. What we want and what we seek is friendly relations between Afghanistan and its neighbors based on mutual respect.
But the neighbors don't seem, at least one neighbor, it appears, does not want that. Or, you know, they blame Afghanistan in turn, that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is based out of Afghanistan and they are targeting lives in Pakistan.
I would say that the situation is very clear-cut. I don't think that by denying issues we can address it. Instability in Afghanistan will not be good for any country, whether we know it or we don't know it. Through a stable Afghanistan, countries of the region can benefit. Instability in Afghanistan can be an impediment towards development, economic development, political stability throughout the region. These are the facts before us, before all of us. And I hope all of us will have the clarity in mind to seize the opportunity and move on, rather than getting stuck in policies which has not helped for the countries.
So what is a bigger threat, the Daesh or the Taliban?
It's to categorize it to terrorist groups, which is a threat to the countries and to the institutions and to the state institutions. I don't think that it will it will help in understanding the threat. It was because of Taliban that the other groups like Al-Qaeda took root in Afghanistan. At the same time, Daesh is a relatively new phenomena, but it has established some footprint in Afghanistan, unfortunately. The nature of terrorism or terror is not different.
So
The names are different. At the same time, our call on Taliban to give up terror in links with terrorist networks in intern negotiations has always been there.
So are these branches in Afghanistan or are the roots in Afghanistan? For example, Daesh in Jalalabad, are the roots in Pakistan or in Afghanistan in your appreciation?
I would say that the Daesh especially, they have roots beyond the region as well. At the same time, Taliban presence is more widespread than Daesh.
Time clearly running out for Pakistan-sponsored terror. The world has changed. While some in Pakistan appreciate this fact, the all-powerful Pakistan army and the deep state, they continue to use terror as state policy, whether it's against India or Afghanistan. But with this new template in place, can they continue? Can they afford to continue to do so? We will continue to track developments on that story very closely, but that is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.